On the morning of my 60th birthday, the world felt unusually kind. The sun peeked through my curtains like it was offering me a quiet hug, and for the first time in years, I allowed myself to feel special. Riley had demanded, that this year she'd handle everything. "Mom," she'd said just last week, "after everything you've done for me, for Annie, this year, I celebrate you." Her words had warmed me more than any cake ever could. I'd spent most of my life pouring everything I had into Riley. After her father, Charles, walked out on us and into the arms of his mistress, I never remarried. I raised Riley on my own, fought to give her stability, sacrificed my career, my youth, my dreams, everything. Watching her grow up, find love, become a mother, it had all felt worth it. So when she promised a big birthday surprise, I didn't argue. I trusted her. I believed in her. I even bought a new dress, simple but elegant. I cleaned the house the night before, baked some cookies Annie loved, and laid out the good tea set. It felt like we were finally closing the chapter on all the lonely birthdays I'd quietly endured, but that morning, something felt off. Riley seemed distracted at breakfast. Her smile was there, but strained, like it had been taped onto her face. She barely touched her eggs, kept glancing at her phone. Jack, her husband, mumbled something about meetings, and Annie, my sweet little granddaughter, was unusually quiet. I told myself it was just work stress. I wanted to believe that. "Don't worry, Mom," Riley had said before leaving. "We'll be back early. Be ready. You won't forget today." I smiled. I told her I was excited, and I was. But somewhere deep in my chest, a quiet ache had already started. One I didn't know how to name. Yet. By late afternoon, the house was still quiet. I kept glancing at the clock like it owed me answers. Every hour passed with an eerie stillness that grew heavier by the minute. I dusted the living room, reheated the soup, and even lit the scented candle Riley gave me last Christmas, lavender and vanilla, her favorites. The one she said reminded her of home. The phone rang just after 4. I practically jumped to answer it. "Mom," Riley's voice came through, breathless, rushed, guilt already lacing every syllable. "Something urgent came up at work. Jack, too. It's a mess. I'm so sorry. We're not going to make it tonight." I stood in the middle of the kitchen holding the phone to my ear, nodding as if she could see me. "It's okay," I managed to say, forcing my voice into something soft. "I understand. Work comes first." She paused. "We'll celebrate tomorrow, I promise." "Of course," I lied. "Don't worry about me." I hung up, my hand lingering against the phone a little longer than necessary. For a while, I just stood there, silent, still. By 7, the soup had gone cold again. I poured myself a cup of tea and sat on the couch, turning on the TV for background noise more than anything else. But nothing held my attention. Not the sitcom, reruns, not the lukewarm tea, not even the mail I'd forgotten to check earlier. Eventually, I reached for my phone, the screen lighting up my face in the dim room. I opened the video app, mindlessly, just to kill time. And then, I saw her. It was only a glimpse. Just the back of a head, a tilt of a familiar shoulder. But a mother knows. I paused, blinked, stared. The video had been posted less than an hour ago. My heart stuttered. I clicked it. A luxurious dining room filled the screen. Crystal glasses, velvet chairs, and at the center of it all, a massive birthday cake surrounded by 6 people. Riley was there. Jack was beside her, one arm around Annie, both beaming like they hadn't just told me they were drowning in urgent work. And then came the dagger. Catherine. Dressed. To perfection, radiant in a silver gown, standing at the head of the table like royalty. My ex-husband Charles stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder, wearing the same look he once gave me before everything shattered. I couldn't breathe. The video panned around the room. Catherine's 2 children, David and Susan, clapped, along as Riley lit the candles. They all began singing Happy Birthday. Then Riley leaned forward, wrapped her arm around Catherine, and whispered loud enough for the microphone to catch. "Happy birthday, Mom." The phone slipped from my hands and landed on the carpet with a dull thud. But the video kept playing. Over and over. Catherine smiling. Riley smiled. My granddaughter Annie holding Catherine's hand. I stared blankly at the screen. My ears buzzed. My lungs ached. Mom. She had called her Mom. I had spent my life protecting Riley from that woman, from the man who abandoned her, from shame, from the trauma. I changed Riley's last name when she was 6 because she begged me, sobbing, "I don't want Daddy anymore." And now? This? I stumbled off the couch, pacing, shaking. A tear slid down my cheek before I even realized I was crying. I wanted to believe I'd misheard, that it was a misunderstanding. A slip of the tongue. But no. She had looked Catherine in the eye and said it with a smile. I opened the fridge, needing something, anything, to ground me. My hand brushed against the small cake I had ordered earlier, just in case they forgot. It was still in its box, untouched. I hadn't even lit the candle. I closed the fridge door. Back in the living room, the video continued its loop. Their laughter echoed from my phone like a chorus of ghosts. I watched them raise their glasses, toast, sing, and there she was, my daughter, laughing beside the woman who tore my family apart. That night, something inside me fractured. Not because they forgot, not even because she lied, but because she chose her. The woman who replaced me in my husband's heart had now replaced me in my daughter's, and somehow, that hurt more than the divorce ever did. The front door creaked open just after 11. I sat in the living room, lights dimmed, cake still untouched on the table. Riley stepped inside like a teenager sneaking past curfew, her heels clicking softly across the tile. She stopped when she saw me sitting there, frozen mid-step, her face catching the faint golden glow of the lamp behind me. "Mom," she said, voice too casual. "Why are you still up?" Jack followed behind her, chatting softly with Annie, who clutched a little balloon, animal in one hand and a party bag in the other. The scent of hotel-grade perfume and roasted lamb wafted in after them. Laughter clung to their clothes. Not mine. Theirs. I didn't answer. Annie spotted me first. "Grandma," she chirped and ran forward, arms wide for a hug. I didn't move. I couldn't. I stared at her like I was seeing a stranger. She slowed, confused. "Grandma?" Her voice trembled. Still, I said nothing. Riley raised an eyebrow, walked toward me, and gave a dramatic sigh. "Work was brutal today," she said, rubbing her temples. "But don't worry, Mom. We'll celebrate tomorrow, okay?" Her eyes drifted to the small cake on the table. Her expression faltered. Guilt tried to sneak in but never made it to her mouth. "Did you buy this for yourself?" she asked. I looked at her. For a second I wanted to scream, wanted to break something. Instead I reached into the side drawer, pulled out my phone, opened the video, and pressed play. Then I tossed it onto the table. Riley froze. She stared at the screen. Her smile cracked. Her mouth opened. No words. Then she sat down. Beside me, slumped like the air had been punched out of her lungs, but not for long. With a breath, she straightened. "You saw it?" she asked. I nodded. "Mom, look, I didn't mean for you to find out like this." I turned sharply. "You didn't mean for me to find out at all." She flinched. Jack moved behind her, silent but present. Annie lingered. Near the hallway, eyes wide. Riley's voice hardened. "You know what? Fine. I'm tired of pretending. Catherine treats me better than you ever did." The words landed like a slap to the chest. "You think I forgot all those nights you were too tired to talk to me?" she hissed. "All the times you were stressed, angry, cold? Catherine listens. She supports me. She doesn't guilt me into love." "Guilt?" I asked, nearly choking. "I gave up everything for you." "And I never asked you to," she snapped. That was your choice, just like it's my choice now. She stopped herself. Too late. What choice? I asked. She looked at Jack, then at Annie, then back at me, and then she pulled it from her purse, a driver's license. She slapped it on the table. I looked down. Name, Riley Spencer. My breath caught. You changed your name back, I whispered. She didn't flinch. Yes, I'm my father's daughter, always have been. I stared at the name, Spencer, the same name I had stripped from her when she was 6, after Charles left us. When she sobbed in my arms and begged, Mommy, I don't want his name anymore. Just yours, just us. You begged me, I said slowly. You cried for me to erase his name from your life. And now you put it back like nothing happened? People change, she said with a shrug. Maybe you should try it. The room went cold. Before I even realized what I was doing, my hand rose and struck her across the face. She gasped, stumbling back, hand flying to her cheek. Jack lunged forward, eyes wide. Annie whimpered. Mom, Riley growled. What the hell is wrong with you? You called her Mom, I said, my voice shaking. You erased me. Jack stepped in then, putting an arm around Riley. Let's just cool off. Everyone's stressed. Then Annie spoke, too fast, too rehearsed. Grandma, we didn't eat cake today. We didn't go to a party. Mommy was working. I looked at her. My sweet Annie, lying to protect her mother. A child being taught the art of betrayal far too early. Riley's face shifted. Guilt, anger, shame, but it was too late. I wasn't just outnumbered. I was no longer part of the family. Not really. I sat back, hands on my knees, the sting of betrayal, no longer sharp, just deep, heavy, like being buried alive. I left before dawn, packed only what I needed, left behind the house, the lies, the cake that never got cut. Riley didn't chase after me. She didn't even call. Not that I expected her to. I'd become invisible in my own home, unless they needed. Laundry done, food cooked, or Annie picked up from school. A ghost in my own story. But ghosts don't bleed. And I had bled enough. What Riley didn't know, what no one knew, was that I had a house. Mine. Paid in full, in my name, in a quiet neighborhood on the edge of town. I bought it years ago, a silent backup plan in case history ever tried to repeat itself. Jack reminded me too much of Charles. I'd always been ready. I moved in without a word. No more early breakfasts, no more school runs, no more sacrificing. Every minute of my life to keep other people's dreams alive. For the first time in decades, I stood in a kitchen and made breakfast just for me. Tea how I liked it. Bread toasted perfectly. Silence, glorious silence. I traveled. I saw the oceans. I breathed clean mountain air. I met women like me, strong, scarred, and tired of waiting for someone else to rescue them. I laughed in a pottery class, got scolded by the instructor for making my bowl too thick. I didn't care. It was my bowl. Then one day, in the middle of the mall, I saw them, Charles and Catherine, walking hand in hand out of a boutique, his hair grayer, her face pulled tighter, but the smugness unchanged. Catherine spotted me first. She stopped, tilted her head, and plastered on that nauseatingly sweet smile. Well, well, she sang, loud enough to draw attention. Laura, out shopping? Didn't expect to see you here? Do you even have time to wear nice clothes? Or are you still playing housemaid for Riley? A few heads turned. I smiled. Oh, Catherine, I said, stepping closer. Still dressing like a trophy wife to cover up being a homewrecker? Her smile faltered. I wasn't done. You know, I continued, voice loud and clear, it's amazing how fast you moved in after your husband died. Most women grieve. You? You delivered your children to my doorstep and took mine in return. Gasps. Charles stiffened. You really think raising another woman's children makes you a mother? I added, voice ice cold. You can play family all you want, but no amount of pearls will cover the fact that you tore one apart. Catherine's jaw clenched. Her grip tightened on Charles's arm, Laura, he started, but I cut him off. Still, playing daddy to kids who only call you uncle? I asked sweetly. That must sting. A few people nearby laughed. Catherine's face turned crimson. And then Riley appeared, as if fate couldn't resist adding salt. She spotted us, rushed, over. Catherine, are you okay? She asked, instantly slipping an arm around her like a daughter comforting her mother. What happened? Catherine sniffled dramatically. It's nothing. Your mother just… My what? I said. Riley turned to me, eyes sharp. You always start drama? Look at Catherine. She's calm, composed. And you? You're always angry, always bitter. No wonder Dad left you. The air cracked. I stepped forward. And yet, I said, he left you, too. She blinked. Don't forget, Riley. He chose Catherine's children over you, just like you're choosing her over me now. She rolled. Her eyes. You're being ridiculous. No, I said, voice low, steady. I'm being done. And I slapped her. Again. The sound echoed. She gasped, hand flying to her cheek, stunned. If you want her to be your mother so badly, I said, pointing to Catherine, go ahead. You've made your choice. And I turned my back. That was the last time I ever called her my daughter. It started with a phone call from Zoe, my old neighbor, the neighborhood's self-appointed surveillance tower. She FaceTimed me, eyes practically glowing with excitement. Laura, she whispered, the camera already panning. Turn your sound up. You're gonna love this. The image jerked around and then steadied, right on Riley's apartment building, now a smoking, charred mess of broken glass and melted siding. Firefighters were wrapping up, neighbors clustered in pajamas and robes. And right in the middle of it all was my daughter, mascara smudged, hair wild, screaming at Jack, screaming at David. David, the freeloading son of Catherine, the one who spent more time in Riley's house than she did, usually with a six-pack in hand and a trail of cigarette butts behind him. And Susan, too, Catherine's little princess with a manicure and no job, flitting in and out like she owned the place. Riley had taken them in, of course. We're one family now, Catherine had said. They should spend time together. Riley obeyed like a good little soldier. And now her house had burned down because David and his friends got drunk, passed out on the couch, and knocked over a lit cigarette onto a cheap rug soaked in spilled beer. One spark. That's all it took. Zoe zoomed in, whispering like a sportscaster. David's blaming Jack, Jack's blaming Riley and Susan. Oh, honey, she's just enjoying the show. Sure enough, Susan was standing off to the side, arms folded, looking like she was watching a soap opera. Her soap opera. Then Jack turned. He didn't comfort Riley. He didn't shield her from the stares. He shouted, "You brought this mess into our house." "Oh, really?" Riley shrieked. "You were just fine with it when Susan was rubbing up against you in my kitchen, weren't you?" "Don't act so innocent," Jack snapped, grabbing Susan's waist. "At least she doesn't nag me to death." Riley lunged. Susan stepped back, still smirking. Jack shoved Riley hard, and then Annie appeared. She clutched her little backpack, eyes wide, mouth trembling. Riley dropped to her knees and grabbed her. "Baby, come here. Come to Mommy," she whispered, voice cracking. But Annie shook her head. "No," she whimpered. "I want Susan." Riley frozen. "What did you say?" Annie's lip trembled. She looked at Susan like she was her savior. "I want Susan. She's nicer than you." Riley pulled her in too fast, too hard. Annie screamed, "Stop it! Let me go! Annie, it's Mommy, it's me, stop it!" Then, in one furious, desperate act, Annie bit her right on the wrist. Riley cried out in shock and pain. Annie tore away and ran straight into Susan's arms. Susan scooped her up like a prize and shot Riley a look of pure victory. "Careful, Riley," she cooed. "You're scaring the child." That was the moment. That was when everything Riley had built, every lie she defended, every loyalty she twisted, crumbled right in front of her. She turned, dragging herself toward Charles and Catherine, who had just pulled up in their luxury SUV, looking bothered to even be there. "Dad, Catherine, please," Riley gasped. "I need help. We have nowhere to go." Charles wouldn't even meet her eyes. "There's no room. Please," she whispered. "Just a night. Just until I figure something out." Catherine leaned over, lowered her sunglasses, and said in the sweetest, cruelest voice I've ever heard, "I only recognize my children. You're not one of them." And the door closed. They drove off without looking back. Zoe's voice cut through the silence of the video call. "Well, well," she said, sipping from her giant mug. "Look who finally found out what it feels like to be you." I didn't speak. Didn't have to, because on my screen, I saw Riley standing alone in the middle of smoke and ash, her daughter choosing another woman, her husband wrapped around the woman who took everything, and her father turning his back just like he once did to me, and I felt nothing. No sadness, no pity, just the cold, quiet satisfaction of karma knocking right on her door. She rang the doorbell just after midnight. I knew it was her before I even opened the door. There's a kind of silence only a daughter carries when the world's finished breaking her. I opened it slowly, and there she was. Riley, soaked from the rain, eyes hollow, clothes rumpled, nothing like the girl who once strutted beside Catherine like she belonged in silk. "Mom," she whispered, her voice barely audible. I have nowhere else to go." I didn't answer right away. I looked at her, really looked at her, and saw the shell of someone who had finally been humbled. The pride was gone. The entitlement had vanished. "I'm not here for forgiveness," she said quickly. "I don't deserve that. I need somewhere to sleep." She didn't ask to be loved. She didn't ask to be held. She asked to survive. I stepped aside. She entered slowly, cautiously, as if even the hallway might reject her. She didn't speak. She didn't touch anything. She went straight to the guest room and closed the door. For the next few days, she barely spoke to me. She didn't ask me to cook. She didn't expect me to clean. Instead, she cleaned my dishes, folded my laundry, scrubbed the bathroom without being asked. She woke up early and made tea, left it by my bedside. Sometimes it was too strong, sometimes too weak, but she tried. She had no job, no home, no child in her arms, but she was learning what it meant to care without expecting anything in return. She had stepped into the life I once lived for her. I didn't tell her I noticed, but one morning I found a note next to my cup. "Thank you for letting me stay. I'll earn this, I swear." And I stared at it for a long time before I folded it into my pocket and poured myself a second cup of tea. Bitterness fades, but memory, it lingers.